How much do you need to retire? That is the $1,000,000 question. If you stay till the end, I'll show you how to get to that $1,000,000 quite easily. But the question we need to answer as we consider how much do you need so you can retire is what is your monthly budget going to be during retirement? This need to work out some kind of rough estimate, the kind of money you're expecting to need per month. What you do is say, for example, you plan on needing $5,000 a month. Then you need to also plan on where the income's coming from. If you have Social Security, say for example, you have $1,500 a month coming in Social Security, you have a shortfall of 3,500 then, 5,000 minus the 1,500. So what we want to do is look at what the S&P 500 uh, might do for you if it continues to do what it's been doing for 100 years. So what we want to do is we're just going to begin with the ballpark figure of $1,000,000, which is what everybody seems to shoot for. Of that $1,000,000, we're going to put 30% over in a cash reserve account so that when the market's going down, you're taking out of the cash reserve, not out of your S&P 500, which in the years 1929 on, you can see some down years. You don't want it coming out of your S&P 500. You want it coming out of the cash reserve account. So what we want to do is run these numbers. I'm going to update this for every single year for the last 100 years to see where you might be. Notice this, 0 times you'd be out of money. Here's the 20-year column right here, and you do not run out of money. You get really low in 1929, but there's one thing we've left out here. You don't want to stay at 3,500 a month. You want to plan for inflation. You're going to get inflation protection with your Social Security, but you may need 5,000 this month or this year, but maybe in 5 or 10 years you might need 6,000. So we want to increase this by 3% a year. Well, let's just do 2% a year and see where an individual might be. At this point, with no inflation built in or no COLA built in, you don't run out of money ever. In the last 100 years, you wouldn't have done that. Let's do it for 2%. Still, at 2%, you still don't run out of money. 1929, you're getting kind of low over here. You got 326,000 column in. Well, let's do the 3%. That's when the difference comes. Is you give yourself a 3% COLA, then you would have run out of money if the market did what it did in 1929. Actually, you still have money after 88, after 25 years, but in 30 years, you'll be run out of money. But again, that also gives you the answer. What happens if you do have some down years, then just don't give yourself a COLA. And what I've done is built that right into this. I put no here. On down years, you don't give yourself a COLA because you don't want to be knocking this down or your cash reserve. So, okay, let's just look. That's at $1,000,000. Let's go up to 4,000 a month. How many times would you run out of money in the last 100 years? The market does like it did in the last 100 years. Again, one time in 1929, you would have run out of money. So in other words, if you need 6,000 a month and you're getting 2,000 from Social Security, you can withdraw 4,000 because that's your shortfall. And look, you wouldn't run out of money. Let's move it up a little bit more. Say you need 6,500 a month and you're getting 1,500 for Social Security. Now we're probably going to be quite a few more times that you might have run out of money. 6 times you would have run out of money. 1928, 29, and 30. And I also believe if you look at 1999, because let's just go down here, 1999. Yeah, you'd be running out of money here after 20 years in 2000 and 2001. Why? Because you're running into this buzzsaw right here. Most decades you would have been just fine. Even in the 70s when we had the oil embargo, you would have been coming out just fine. But what we're going to do is look in the worst case scenarios if the market would actually repeat the kind of numbers we had in the Depression years or the year 2000. So we want to err on the side of having enough money. So let's probably how to stick to 4,000 a month. Again, you need to decide what your budget is and realize just how much money you need to have to do that. Right now, with $4,000 a month, if that's what you decide your shortfall is, you'd only run out of money if you had times like 1929. But we don't want to do this. We're trying to find the number that you need to get to so you can retire comfortably. Let's go down to $800,000 with the same scenario, 30% go in the cash reserve. and 70% remaining in the S&P 500. Let's update this with the 4,000 a month. Again, if you need 6,000 a month, you're getting 2,000 from Social Security. Your shortfall is 4,000. If you have 800,000 in there, you're still going to run out of money 6 of those times. But I want you to consider most financial calculators say they use terms like 90, you have 94% success rate or whatever. So actually 6 times out of the last 100 years you would have run out of money. You still got a really good success rate. If you go down through here, you're going to have see millions of dollars here. That's starting with $800,000. 6 times you would have run out of money. Let's do one other thing here. Let's go down to 700,000. Again, we're trying to find that figure that you try to get to so you can think you can retire. Let's do one other scenario. Let's say you're making need to have 5,500 and you're going to have 1,750 coming out of Social Security. Again, as you can see, we can run numbers all day long, and that's why I'd like to see comments in this video of what numbers you'd like me to run. But let's say you need 5,500 a month. You figured that out, and you're getting 1,750 from Social Security. That's a shortfall of 3,750. Let's go ahead and update this. See how many times, using the numbers from the S&P 500 for the last 100 years, 7 times you would have run out of money. Let's just do 3,500. See if that makes a difference. Again, this is starting with 600 or 700,000. Updating that 6 times. So you can kind of see you might have to go down to absolutely guarantee you wouldn't run out of money. I'm not sure if 300,000 or 3,000 a month would do that or not. 3,000 a month on 700,000, and you just have the one time in 1929. 1929 was such an extreme year. As we've seen before, 1929, we had 4 down years, then another down year, then 3 more down years. So 1929 is probably not a good example to use. You probably want to look at the more recent example of 1999, because that's the time you were running out of money before. Again, you have plenty of, well, not plenty, but 200,000 after 20 years, down to 18,000. So it would be get kind of iffy on 700,000, taking out 3,000 a month. But again, what you need to do is not look at the 700,000. You need to look at run your numbers for your budget. What do you think you're going to need, and how much are you going to get from Social Security? Do you think you're going to need, if you have a $4,000 shortfall, $700,000 might be kind of iffy. Might be kind of iffy. What you might have to do if you reach 700,000 and you can't continue working is get rid of the COLA. Get rid of the COLA, which would be kind of painful because each year as inflation went up, you would have the same amount of money as you did before. But let's just run it. Right now, we've got 9 times you're running out of money with 700,000 starting and 4,000 a month coming out. Let's go to 0 here. In other words, you don't give yourself a COLA at all. That's one way to get around this, is don't give yourself a COLA until the market starts coming back and you don't have these down years. How many times you run out of money? Still would have run out of money 5 times. So you might have to drop down to 3,500 a month. Again, if you need 4,000 a month, then you're not going to be able to do it with 700,000. Let's do one other thing. Let's say 800,000. Again, like I said, these are the kind of numbers I can run for you all day long. 4,000 a month you think you're going to need because that's your shortfall. You got 800,000. How many times the last 100 years would you run out of money with this scenario? Giving yourself no COLA 2 times, and that was 1929 and 1930. You give yourself a 1% COLA. Again, we're just going to run numbers for you just to show you. Is it going to go up? Okay, it's 3 times now. I'm not sure where the other one is, probably 1999. How about a 2% COLA? You can see how important COLA is to how much money you really need before you can retire comfortably on the budget that you've planned for yourself. Okay, 4 times on 800,000 with a 2% COLA. So hopefully these numbers make sense to you, but I also promise you, okay, how do you get to that $1 million? We've been using numbers at $1 million and less than $1 million, but look how easy it is to get to $1 million. Let's just look at this. $350 a month over 35 years, given every scenario in the last 100 years. If the market reacts like it does in the next 35 years, even in the worst case scenario, you're going to come out, and this column is a minimum. These are the columns for 35 years and numbers. Minimum is $1,015,000. So $350 a month. Somebody might say, I can't afford that. Let's go to $300 a month and increase that by 2% a year because you are going to get raises. In other words, $300 first year, 306. Let's update this, see how much money you'd have after 35 years. I like 35 years. I also give you the columns for 30 and 40. But look at this, $1 million, contributing $300 a month, giving yourself, increasing that by 2% a year. Again, in the worst case scenario, that's what we're talking about here. The worst case scenario, no matter what you pick for this 35-year period, while you're hitting the depression years, the dot-com bubble years, the oil embargo years, you're still in the worst case scenario in this column, you're going to find $1 million. One other one, how about $250 a month, increasing that by 4% a year? Because you want to increase that as much as you can. Let's see. Our channel is called $1 Million Made Easy, and this is why. Because you can reach $1 million in a 35-year period, given any of these scenarios. 350 with no increase, $300 a month with a 2%, and 250 you could do it with a 4%. In other words, 250, 260. Hopefully these numbers make sense to you. Our channel is called $1 Million Made Easy. I will run numbers for you. Just let me know. Take advantage of what the S&P 500 has been doing for 100 years. Is it really going to do anything drastically different than what it did in the last 100 years? Don't be like these people that end up after 35 years or after 35, 40 years of working, only $87,000 in their investment account. You can do this, folks. You can do this. Again, we just want to run these numbers for you. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing. Tell your friends about these numbers. They are just plain incredible.